Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Paz from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me here is Dr. M. Lavie Marg for this huge episode today. What's going on, Lavie?
Episode 300, John. We did it.
I can't believe it. And obviously, we have a little 300. Your picture you sent me, I put as the background, and I actually have it here so people can see the whole picture there. 300. A little homage to Gerard Butler, his movie.
So, in thinking about it, John, am I the longest co-host that you've had? I know that your flagship shows are probably closing in on 1,000 now, but in terms of a collaboration, where do I stand in the pantheon of history?
You know what? I didn't even think about it. I think you are. I think you're the longest now, which is great. Nice. I didn't even realize that. I love it.
Nice. You've kept it consistent. I remember, of course, we were coming off the Trump mania. 14 episodes, although it felt much longer than that, like that arc, that window. I guess it was history unfolding at the time. And we were talking about ideas, and I had maybe 2 or 3 ideas, but one of them was like the watch-alongs was a big thing back then, less so now. And there was I was like, maybe we should do one global, or I've always wanted to do like a business podcast. So, we settled on that, and I was like, maybe every 2 weeks, and you're like, why not every week? So I was like, okay, we'll do it. And a few weeks where I was a little bit slow in scheduling, you're like, are we on? So you kept me on track, John.
Hey, I got to do that. Got to keep it consistent. Got to keep you on track. But it's been a wild but fun ride. I can't believe, because sometimes she's like, the news is going to slow down, or there's going to be nothing to talk about, and it never seems to do with this wild, wacky world of professional wrestling. Always seems to be something going on somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And like when I'd be like, okay, it will be a slow news week, so I'm like deep diving into something like we don't normally do, or maybe historical, and then something big hits. So we have a lot of content. So, what have been your favorite episodes, moments, or guests, John?
I love when we do the news because we can get into it, but I love when you get in trouble talking about TNA because sometimes you're negative. I love when you get in trouble talking about MLW, even from people at MLW, maybe getting into some trouble. I love that stuff. But I love, obviously, Brett. Hopefully we'll talk to him soon. Brett Lauderdale. Love when he's on. Great stuff, as always. Nice little buzz always circulating around Brett, too. Violent J, also one of my favorites. Awesome to have him on. So those two definitely stick out to me. But of course, I have to mention my longtime close personal friend that I even talked to earlier today, Mr. Kevin Kleinrock. He's the man as well.
I was about to throw it out there. I know you guys have been collaborating in the audio world there. Everyone knows Kevin, but I didn't want to get in trouble, so I was gonna say that as well. So certainly like Violent J, and one time scheduled, one time a surprise. So you never know.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Yeah.
That was that was a surprise. Jeff Jarrett was sort of that first, our show, of course, we really want to go in depth and spotlight people that haven't been spotlighted and that sort of thing. But talking to Jeff Jarrett was sort of one of those moments. AAA, all of that talk. I think
Dorian Roll Dan. How awesome is that? Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I haven't been as bold to reach out since they, started working at WWE. Stuff, yeah. I know that would be tough. But I think the series that really put us on the map was talking about Brett and GCW, that IWTV lawsuit. When that first broke, I happened to get the article, I think it was in Pennsylvania, that they were going to be sued. And we had a 3-part court series, and we went through the documents. We even had a reporter come on. So I think that was a really big moment for the show. Any guests sort of surprise you, John, in what they said, or, your expectations?
I don't even know if I should even bring him up, but man, we've had on the very, very controversial BJ Bethel. We've had him on the show. We were talking to him, and and maybe believing the hype of some of the stuff, but obviously he's no longer writing for wrestling, I guess, and I guess he kind of got outed as maybe not being as truthful. So that was a shocker. I just love on the flip side, because another one of my favorite guests, a buddy of ours, obviously Brandon Thurston, calls it like it is, gets the real numbers, gets the real facts. So I love Thurston, but I was just kind of just thinking today as we're like running through like some of the past guests, I was like, man, like we had him on, and like that's going to be a controversial look back now that I really think about it.
Now those two aren't as separate as it appears. The WrestleNomics podcast and when they were doing YouTube video also, BJ was actually a I don't know if it would be called a co-host, but he was like one of the anchors.
Wow.
There's always Brandon, and then he'd have a couple of guys there. Now, I'm not going to throw BJ under the bus.
Okay. All right. Sorry if I did. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah. No. But I understand this. This does definitely, like, from what I understand, like, it definitely seems like an error, whatever. But BJ actually gave me awesome opportunity, especially the first Trump Mania book. I think it was the Sydney Morning Herald, and the Dayton paper and some things. And it was the same article, but different media outlets. I used both quotes from both of them, even though it was like more informative than Fire and Fury. So I was like, thank you, BJ. And he's reading the Ultimate Fighters now. So I do consider him a friend, but, you know, I do understand the situation. I worked for SC Scoops a little bit, writing articles, and of course, and we give them props, right? You know, it's all a journey. They were we were their official business podcast of their of their site. Now we are PW Pondering, so you know it's all connected in a way. So there's been a lot of interesting guests. I would say without maybe naming them as much. There was like a band that was wrestling centric, and they had posted they wanted to be guests on a podcast. And then they didn't really have much to say, and they didn't promote the podcast afterwards. So I was like, meh, that was a little bit, but you know, whenever you're spotlighting people, sometimes, you know, you never know what it's going to be like. I had, I enjoyed our interview recently, talking about the TNA Philadelphia controversy, a little bit contentious with co-host and host, but that was fun as well. And I think like one of the niches that, you know, I enjoyed leaning into was like the comic book intersection. I think we've had a good 5 or 6 people on to talk about that. And of course, I hope it's just been one person that's been a past guest that's passed away, but I want to acknowledge Jamie, who was like from Slam Wrestling, who is known for book reviews and spotlighting books and so on. And, somebody who was married and family and so on. And that was really sad to hear of her passing a number of years later. Everyone else should continue to be well and in good health. But I'm sure, John, during your many, many years of interviews, you've, you know, just natural course of life, people have passed away and you've had the chance to create that record with them. Probably most consistently Kevin Sullivan, who was ahead of this podcast by a few weeks, but it gives us a chance to reflect and look back.
Definitely, for sure. And even just on the two-man power trip side, Dusty, I one of the guy that was 2015 interviewed him, and he passed away only a couple days later. So little bit shocking, sometimes when some of these people pass, it's just unfortunate. You don't really know what's going on. So it is shocking, because you're interviewing them, you're really getting to know them. But her, especially, because she has a family and everything, and she was still very young. So that was a shocker for sure.
And the business has changed so much, in the last, I would say 6 years. Yeah, of course, we were like in COVID, right? Everyone started a podcast during COVID, but maybe even going back, 7 years, just how the WWE business model has changed. I think AEW, maybe they have some more mature business processes now, but, in terms of being like a hot product, I think they've cooled off. TNA is probably one of those that's in a better position now than they were at the time. Ring of Honor was getting very cold. they sort of like that opening was there for AEW to take advantage, but they were coming off that hot run. New Japan still had a lot going on in the US, but they were starting to feel it. MLW still had a lot of buzz, but I remember an article from Conan, or where Conan was interviewed, started talking about, you know, some of the looming challenges, basically referencing that they were going to have to deal with challenges from things like AEW, and look where that turned out. GCW, maybe we can talk about that a little bit in reflection later.
Yeah, I hope to delve deeper into GCW. Should we talk some news? Should we talk about your favorite topic, TNA, though, to start things off?
Yeah, so I think we should talk about a very like business of the business type of thing, where we take like one thing that people just sort of like announce from the press release and they move on and they don't look into it any further. So we're going to go into like depth about this without having heard about Revolt Sports or Revolt in the past. Were you, John, familiar with this Revolt channel or social media platform previously?
No, I was not.
So this is a urban-centric, marketed media outlet where they do have digital cable channel and so on, but they are smartly more than that. So surprisingly, TNA announced a deal to basically give their classic content, license it to Explosion content to Revolt, which is basically found money, right? Besides, you know, it having been probably on TNA Plus or YouTube or whatever it may be, like, and it's the type of thing 24 years later, right? Like, it's kind of more fun than maybe it was when it started, right? Like you start noticing some stars, some people that might have passed through, some people that might have done jobs or whatever it may be. So TNA and Revolt today jointly announced a content partnership bringing exclusive Explosion matches and premium content from TNA's 24-year history. Revolt, which stands as the unrivaled cultural authority across multiple categories and is a preeminent platform for the most influential artists, creators, and cultural leaders defining the future, will broadcast exclusive TNA Explosion matches and premium content from TNA's vast 24-year period. I love this line. TNA Wrestling is a major player in the annual $1.5 billion pro wrestling industry. So what is Revolt TV? Now part of the broader multi-platform Revolt off-script worldwide ecosystem, has succeeded by focusing tightly on authentic hip-hop and multicultural youth culture. Maybe that's why I haven't heard about it. I know the hippity hop. Building a multi-platform presence, empowering creators, and executing strong operational leadership while remaining resilient through industry shifts. So some of this is from Grok. So I asked it to do some research. Revolt positions itself as the home for creators shaping hip-hop and youth culture. It delivers content through a hip-hop lens that covers music, fashion, sports, news, social issues, lifestyle, and more, targeting 18 to 34-year-old males. This authenticity differentiates from more general and mainstream outlets. It reaches tens of millions via its linear cable channel, while emphasizing digital reach. I mean, it's available to tens of millions of homes, but originally a cable network in 2013, Revolt pivoted under its current CEO towards a multi-platform approach, but they use things like TikTok and Instagram and so on. So one of the questions that I have is, and we don't know the exact answer to this, is like, what's the structure of this deal? Now, one of the things that Revolt emphasizes is that sort of it's a shared, as far as I understand, shared revenue with its creators. So I wonder if it would be something like whatever advertising that they get that it's shared, or if they just paid a straight rights fee for it. So, but I think it's good for, you know, if they do have some reach, I think it's good for TNA. You know, you reach a different target market, just like we were talking about in a very different way that syndication can reach older viewers in local markets. You know, here you reach a different culture, a different lens, and it allows you to expand a little bit as well. I wouldn't have too many expectations of this, you know, being a rocket ship, but it certainly found money. John, what do you think?
Yeah, that just seems like easy money, found money. However you want to say it. I feel like that's a home run. That's got to be a good thing.
So, okay, Avery Styles. Everyone's talking about him. He signed with TNA. Were you
Yeah.
following it? I didn't have a chance to see what he actually did at this pay-per-view. And do you think this was the right time, John?
Just a promo. That's it. Just like the announcing that he's been signed. I don't know. I kind of didn't think so because he's so young, and just to kind of throw him out there. I know WWE has signed guys super young. I know other promotions have signed guys pretty young. I just was thinking, I was like, man, is that like the right thing to go in, like right to TV, or should you kind of figure your footing out, get really good, then go to TV? I don't know. It's like hard to say, but it's almost like we're going to see him grow and learn and wrestle on TV, literally. Like we're going to be kind of a part of his journey because he's only had about 10 matches or so.
Yeah, what's good is that I see that he's signed to a number of different matches and different promotions all over. So he'll continue to work around. That would be disappointing if he was just going to work a TNA schedule, but talent tends to get out there. I think it's hard to make a first impression. Obviously, it's hard to hide people. With social media, everyone's going to post every match that he has while the spotlight is on him and interest is there. But for TNA, I understand the nostalgia, connecting to AJ Styles, maybe get AJ Styles more on the television. But it is a lot of pressure on Avery, in terms of talent. It's very hard to, hit the ground running, and especially like when his father had so many, high flying moves and polished look, and by the time people noticed that that's a lot of pressure for comparison. Maybe not fair to say Ric Flair and David, but it is that sort of pressure, in terms of this expectations and environment. Their street team is expanding to some controversy at times, but most wrestling promotions outside of the biggest brands, and this is clearly a distinction, even though maybe TNA tries to position themselves as this. If you're using or utilizing volunteers, who may get tickets or T-shirts or whatever, it's a good like on the ground strategy, but it's not a big time thing. But if you can utilize it to get fans in the door, why not? Interesting TNA Plus VIP membership. That Carlos Silva had a town hall that was exclusive to members. First, I thought it was very intriguing, but then I later learned that all the questions would be pre-vetted. Interesting to see TNA working with AAW, and I think that's really a smart move to work locally. And in another smart move, one of my favorite small time, small to mid-sized venues, Dothan Civic Center, as we've talked about extensively on Ultimate Fighters for UFC 12. I think it always looks great on television, talking about, Alabama wrestling recently. You know, this venue looked great there. It looked great for NWA. It's sort of like it's small, but it's scaled. That once you see fans in the risers, it just has a better look to it for television. Now the lockdown, as of this recording, or a few hours ago at least, WrestleTix hadn't nailed down a final number. They had 4,721 potentially, but some of the sections it wasn't clear exactly if they were on sale and so on. It could be up to 6,500. I feel like it'll fall closer to the just below 5,000. What do you think, John?
Yeah, probably right around that. I would say still a pretty damn good number. I mean, that I'm pretty damn impressed because people are saying maybe they're getting cold or maybe they're cooling off. So it's a great number regardless, but probably right around 5,000.
Yeah, I think definitely a win for them in Brampton, Ontario. August 27th, 897. The second night, similarly, and just to look at one night at the moment in San Antonio, about 710. Now, one of the bigger shows where tickets just went on sale, the Bound for Glory in Tampa, has 488 seats out. Current setup just under 2,500. So again, October 13th and 14th, both in. November 15th, Edmonton for Destination X. November 18th and 19th in Calgary. and December 17th and 18th in El Paso. So there had long been a to be announced, which ended up being Dothan. So now we know TNA's full schedule or expected schedule for the rest of the year.
Man, TNA always seems to have a lot of news going on. That's for sure, which is good. I think that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, there's always something popping, especially once finish the notes. Got to grab those things. Keep it interesting.
What about the NWA? What is going on with Billy Corgan's NWA?
Yeah, so just one piece this week, but a significant one. Now, I think it's Comet TV, right? Is the where they typically broadcast, but now they're utilizing Charge as well. You know, its cousin at the same time. So simulcasting at the same time, in addition to the streaming as well. So it just goes to show more investment in the NWA, how it's working so well for the Sinclair Diginets, and it gives Adam Ware a chance to continue stacking the numbers as you combine, you know, the different runs and different channels and so on to maybe break their current record.
He absolutely loves the NWA. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and he's probably very curious why I keep going to his LinkedIn page.
Just curious, though, do they normally put the anniversary show broken up like that into separate, like several episodes? Is that what they? I'm not remembering that. Maybe.
I know they've definitely done it for their whatever you would call it, pay-per-views or premium events since they stopped. I think it was Triller. I don't know if they've done pay-per-view since they worked with Triller, but now that they like Hard Times or whatever it may be, I'm not sure if Samhain, or you'll correct that, John.
Wayne.
Yeah, that they've broken them up there, but it's interesting because it gives it a potential. Because I'm thinking about it, like maybe next time Sinclair wants to, you know, broadcast the whole show, and then you could still, like, it's a different experience to then chunk it up over 5 weeks. And I know it's a different side of the house, and I don't want to get too far afield, but you know, if it's going so well for Sinclair and NWA, you know, you have that long-standing, you know, all the affiliates that you work with, and maybe there could be opportunity there. But Adam Ware focuses on the Diginet side, so it would be sort of like a leap to have even more expectations of Sinclair.
Now, what about the Juggalos? What is going on with JCW, bro?
Yeah, so we're going to hold on the GCW part because we might talk about that a little bit later. But it was interesting because they're having shows. So a YouTube show, Lunacy, they switch it from Thursday night to Saturday night, like as we're recording this just for 1 week. I think they're both in Michigan on Saturday night and Sunday, but it's hard to find like tickets. I'm not sure if it was just connected to concerts that they're already doing, where they're just making that part of it or whatever. So that was just like a little bit notable to me. But Avery Styles, I'm talking about him. He will be going against Caleb Connolly on Lunacy. So really getting out there, and I'm very curious about the Juggalo brand as it continues to build momentum under Vince Russo.
Bro, come on, JCW, bro. Now, as far as MLW is concerned, what is the latest with Court Bauer's MLW?
Yeah, so nothing like groundbreaking, but just consistently everything that they have on the board in terms of live events is looking good. South Carolina on September 12th, Center Stage in Atlanta, you know, that was just moved recently, so almost 300 tickets out the door. 772 setup. MLW Azteca in the Chicago market. The first night is basically all cleared out, and then they added a second night. So it's kind of consistent what they do, you know, month to month and so on. You sort of know what to expect. I don't know what else they could be doing, John. What do you see like as the future for MLW over the short term?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. It feels like better distribution or a bigger channel, maybe that they would need to get on for sure, because they have some big names and some guys like Cross. He obviously has a lot of followers and a lot of people pay attention to him. So you got Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. I mean, you have a bunch of guys over there. Matt Riddle with just some names. I feel like maybe they just need like bigger distribution or something, because they even have team ups sometimes with New Japan and CMLL and even some AEW crossover. So I don't know. It's got to be distribution.
Yeah, I think sometimes it feels like it's all tapped out, but look at what NWA pulled out of its hat, and took a number of years to get going and find that. So you never know what's the right connection. Sometimes I think about like something like interpromotional with teeth, that like, yeah, you have CMLL and New Japan and so on, like you're kind of combining those brands, but sometimes it gets too much of a fusion. So like something that really gives you an identity and a little bit of buzz there would be helpful for them. But it's hard with now they've been on YouTube consistently, but sometimes they would take off the weekly show and they're on Veeps, which I'm not sure how many people are pursuing that, and be in sports distribution is very, very small. So it's just hard to sort of get out there. It's a solid brand. They know their markets. They know the right size of the venues. So that's something to continue building on. They have, some of the names who utilize it as their primary promotion, but sometimes they're there and then suddenly they're gone, and it seems to be like sort of a little bit jarring each time something like that happens.
Do you like the fact that they're using Bishop Dyer, aka Baron Corbin, as if like as if he's still there type of thing? Do you like that?
I think it's confusing, and it makes it feel like stale a little bit. Like you have this name now that he's really having his best run, right, with WWE. I guess, right, he beat Kurt. I know I'm a little bit far removed, but he beat Kurt Angle, right, during his Kurt Angle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. WrestleMania 35. I guess that was.
So I don't know if that was more of manufacture, but now it feels like he's having his best run because he's going up against like a rapper, right? Like, is that
Lil Yachty? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he is the current U.S. champion. He beat Trick Williams, who supposedly was not the future, but one of the guys that Triple H had earmarked for a future like world title guy kind of guy, and he was the long running U.S. champion. He beat Sami Zayn, did all this good stuff, and then Baron Corbin's beat him 2 matches in a row. Now he's wrestling the famous rapper Lil Yachty.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's their biggest name that they could possibly focus on, even though it can't have a payoff with him returning anymore. So, but sometimes it makes it feel like a little bit cheesy or like stale. I remember in the early 90s, something would get confusing. There was somebody that was on talking on Global. There was somebody on Global that looked like Dusty Rhodes. So I kind of thought it was Dusty Rhodes, but it wasn't. Or like when Axe would be on, I kind of felt like, even though, something like Demolition, I'm not sure what the timing was, but like Axe would be on, one of those shows, but like it was a different Demolition and so on. Like it feels like a little bit low rent sometimes, and that's something that's best avoided.
I love it. Got a bit of a surprise here for you. Got a call in episode 300, Mr. Brett Lauderdale. BL, what's going on, BL?
Folks, it is a pleasure to be here. Episode number 300. Congratulations to you guys. And how many is this for me out of 300?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask, Brett, so I had to do my research. I believe it is 12. So
yeah, it's 12.
If you were to tune in any episode of The Business of the Business, you have a 4% chance of hearing from Brett Lauderdale.
That means 1 out of every 25 episodes I'm on.
That's solid. And from now on, we want to increase our percentages.
That's good. I like the idea of that. I'm down to get my batting average up. So just let me know, guys. This is my only program that I appear on outside of my own. So I'm happy to stop in at any time.
We are honored, and John has made a list, so he's good to go.
Yes. I got to start off hot here. What do you think about Avery Styles? What do you think about working with him? And what do you think about him signing with TNA?
Well, I had a good experience with Avery Styles. Nice young man, humble, polite. I mean, we absolutely got, a baby when he showed up at GCW. It was I believe his 7th and 8th matches of his career with us. And I believe it was the first time he was ever on the road as well. So, we got a kid who was literally, thrown into the deep end and witnessing everything for the first time. And I thought he did it well. His matches were good. He was cool with everybody in the locker room. We were happy to have him. And I hope to have him again soon. As for signing with TNA, doesn't surprise me. Good move by them. Obviously, his family has history with TNA, and there's a lot of buzz and interest around him already. So I actually think it's a pretty good get by TNA, to be honest, because I just assumed he was going to be signed with WWE, whenever he's ready. So good get by them. Obviously, I mean, he still has a lot to learn and in the ring, and he's got a lot of developing to do. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to be do that on the go on TV, which is the challenge. So good for them, good for him, and I'll be interested to see how it works.
I'm just curious if Eric Cannon, got furious over this signing. You know what I mean? The kid didn't pay his dues. He didn't set up the chairs.
Wow. I don't think I don't think Eric Cannon cares. I think that situation was probably could have been handled differently, but also was definitely blown out of proportion. But I understand why. It was a lot of feelings involved, and that type of thing can escalate quickly, and it did. But I'm sure Eric Cannon's going to be okay, and as we can see, Avery Styles is going to be fine. So everybody's going to be all right.
Speaking of maybe something blown out of proportion, you tell me this Drake Wuertz controversy. People canceling talents, quote unquote, canceling them because they want them to be canceled. What do you think about that? What do you think about bringing him back? What was that kind of like, and what did you think about the backlash over it?
Well, I've known Drake personally for almost 20 years. I was there when he debuted in CZW as just a kid from Indiana. I was there when he walked into the ECW arena for the first time. I watched him take his first steps in there, and just seeing him overcome with emotion and just wide-eyed and excited, and just a kid, and I knew him again before anybody knew him, basically, and I watched him obviously through the years, his career developed, and as he went on to WWE, and yes, of course, I witnessed, as he became, a outspoken, I don't even know how you would describe it, but well, he was a political figure, ran for office, on some pretty extreme views, to some of us, including myself. A lot of what he said and did was polarizing. I understand why. I don't personally agree with it, but the thing is that I think a lot of us have to keep in mind and try to keep a perspective on is, that even though, we may disagree, varying levels of disagreement, to the point of even being, disgusted, some of us, is that half of the country shares these political views. Our country is split. We're divided, so, what may be extreme to us is not extreme to the other half of the country. And I'm not saying that makes it right, or that, that any of it should, that his most, perhaps, outspoken talking points should necessarily be forgotten. But I think now in this stage in his life and his career, where he's he's not living that life anymore. He's not about that life anymore. He's moved on. He's apologized to the people that he's offended. And it's a process. I think that he has a lot of work to do as well. I think, him telling me, listen, I don't agree with it anymore. I'm sorry that I offended. That's one person. He obviously has a lot of work to do in covering everybody, and making it clear, what he's, what he regrets or what he, doesn't agree with anymore, and we need to see what he's going to do moving forward. But I think, as I knew him, the real person, who I consider to be the real person, I feel like that person's back now, and I feel like that person has a lot to offer to wrestling and to society. And I think that, if anybody deserves another chance, why can't he have another chance? And I shared my personal history and my personal reason why I wanted to be the one to give him that chance. And here we are. So I'm not surprised there was backlash, but I also saw a lot of people that were open-minded and that are willing to give him that opportunity. So here we are. We'll see what happens. If it doesn't work out, then I will be happy to say, you know what, I was wrong. This was a bad idea, and we'll move forward. But on the other hand, what if it works out? Maybe this can be an example of how to move forward and how to come together, in areas where we thought, that could never happen. So, again, I have a personal investment here, and I'm willing to roll the dice and extend my hand to him and see what he's willing to do with it.
I do hate canceling people forever. I think that's stupid. I think a second chance is in line with everybody, for the most part.
Yeah, sorry. And sorry to cut you off, but
no
I think it's also important to consider here, Drake was never, he was never accused of, any sort of, assault or sexual assault or anything, no types of crime, no criminal involvement, anything of that nature. He was essentially accused of being an ignorant idiot, and guilty as charged. But I think there has to be a line. I'm not trying to give a second chance to a rapist. I'm trying to give a second chance to a guy who's shared an ideology that a lot of us didn't agree with. So yes, I'm with you. Are we just to cancel everybody forever and just write everybody off? I mean, how are we ever going to progress and move forward as a society, if we're just going to, declare enemies forever? So I'm sorry to cut you off there.
Oh yeah. No problem. Well said, for sure. Now, I got to mention this though. Is there any chance of Zandig coming back? Because I was at the show. We met, a few months ago. What about Zandig? Is he in the line to come?
Well,
back?
Zandig,
that was awesome.
Zandig will never wrestle again because he's basically crippled. I mean, he's, when he jumped off the roof with Joey Janela, he broke his back in 3 places, and he was essentially, I don't want to say paralyzed, but he was rendered disabled for life. He had a surgery that went wrong. There was a medical malpractice. He cannot walk without severe pain. So he'll never wrestle again, but John again is another guy who I have very little in common with him from, a social standpoint and a political standpoint. And I don't go there when I talk to him, and we kind of have an understanding and a respect for each other on that. And he knows that when he does make his appearances at GCW, as rare as they are, that he's done a pretty good job of leaving that out of it and being John Zandig, the ultraviolet icon, as opposed to, John, the political crusader. So I understand again, and I'm, I could not be further aligned or misaligned with these folks from a political standpoint. But I try to find a human side and some common ground to bring us together. And I know that doesn't always work, and not everybody likes that idea. But I don't know. I guess I always try to. I always believe that there's got to be some room for redemption or common ground.
Now, common ground, let's talk about the Juggalos. What's going on with the gathering of Juggalos? What's going on with GCW, JCW? Anything you'd like to talk about as far as the gathering and the Juggalos?
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, I had my second gathering of the Juggalos experience, and aside from the differences with JCW, the actual gathering of the Juggalos is awesome. It's a great experience. It's a lot of fun. It's so different. Obviously, you know, I'm not a practicing Juggalo, but you know, I grew up a big fan, and they are a unique breed for sure. They're a different type of people, but they are a good people, and it's fun to be around them for a few days, and just kind of immerse yourself in the culture within reason. Of course, you won't catch me with the face paint on, but you know, I love walking around the grounds and interacting with everybody. It's just fun. It's like it really does feel like you're on another planet for a couple of days, and yeah, I really have a great time. And yeah, once again, you know, the JCW, you know, there was 2 shows, Lunacy on I guess it was Thursday night, and then Bloody Mania on Friday, and they were great. They're so much fun, and it's such a, I mean, I've said it many times, you know, it's just so different, you know, and it's like refreshing in that respect, you know. So much of wrestling that we see on TV, so much of wrestling that we see streaming, so much of the wrestling on YouTube, it's a lot of the same thing, the same formula, the same wrestlers doing the same thing on every program. But that doesn't apply to JCW. It's so different, and it's a fun watch, both in person and, you know, when they stream. So I love it. Honestly, I really do find myself, like, as I can't watch a lot of wrestling, but I am able to watch Lunacy and watch it pretty easily. Their episodes, it's a fun watch.
Now, what about Vince Russo? Obviously, you know, we saw you pop up talking to him. We saw Nick Gage pop up talking to him. What's going on with Russo and Game Changer?
Well, business
in GCW.
Business is business, and you know, for those who saw Bloody Mania, you may have a better idea of you know what came out of that meeting with Vince Russo. But you know, we are you know, outside of GCW. Listen, we're for hire. You know, my guys are for hire, and I'm a businessman first and foremost. So if Vince Russo would like to talk business with me, I'm always down to talk business. And I don't know if you're going to see Vince Russo in GCW. Not because necessarily we wouldn't be interested, but I just think he is so interested in JCW that you know, I think that's where his focus lies right now. And I don't know if he has any reason to cross over, but that sure would be something if he did.
Let me give the hot tag to Lavie, who is more obsessed with 50 states than probably GCW is.
Yeah, I'm following the map there. So you gave a hint, Brett, that Massachusetts was going to be state number 50, and you had a venue in mind. I know you can't reveal the venue right now, but like, what are you thinking about in terms of planning Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, my plan is yes, Massachusetts will be number 50. I intend for it to occur next summer. I actually have 2 locations in mind. In a perfect world, I would actually like to do a weekend in Massachusetts, 2 days in 2 different locations. That's my perfect world. I don't know if it's going to play out like that, but I have a vision in my head. So I'm hoping it'll work out. But as I've, you know, I think I've stated a few times in different places that, you know, of all those states that are remaining, Massachusetts has the most personal connection for me. And, you know, I feel like if we're going to have a big event and we're going to hit the 50th, I'd rather have it be somewhere that means something to me. And also is in a, you know, major kind of metro area, opposed to number 50 happening in, no offense to the state of North Dakota or the state of Mississippi, which are great states, but I want it to be somewhere that means something. So something that means something to me, somewhere where all of our fans can get to. It's easily accessible. And that's why Massachusetts is going to be number 50.
So speaking of cancel culture, and just because I don't follow so many of the modern performers, but she has been one of my favorites. We spoke about last time Masha Slamovich and your long time knowing her and working with her. She's gotten out there more, even most recently to a venue not too far from me in the Bronx, but I didn't make it out there. Sort of, have you had any chances to speak with her, and might she return to GCW sometime soon?
I have seen her. I saw her once over the summer. And I've exchanged messages, no lengthy conversation or anything like that, but we've exchanged, just a, hey, hope you're doing well, so on and so forth. Just, very brief check-ins. Yes, I did consider Masha to be a friend, and I still do. But whatever happened with her, I feel like, again, I think there's obviously work to be done, and it's kind of bigger than me, in terms of, bringing her back. And I hope that there is a way someday for that to happen. And I think, she's doing a lot of the right things and, building that bridge. But again, I think just like with Drake, I think, there's a process that probably has to play out. And I hope, and I guess I'm not really the right one to determine what that process is. But, obviously the first step is for her trying to get out there and rebuild relationships. And I don't know, I really, it's a tough situation because, there's allegations made that, again, they go beyond just words. So, I don't know I don't know what that road is, but, I feel like, again, I feel like I know the real Masha, and I know there's a good person in there and a good heart. So I don't know how she bridges that, or builds that bridge to getting back into the mainstream indie wrestling. But, if and when that occurs, I hope I do get a chance to work with her again one day.
So in terms of distribution, you've certainly shown your loyalty to Triller, and especially the Fight folks that have grounded this part of the Triller universe. But you're also watching, the different distribution moves taking place from AEW to Plus to JCW, just hosting things on their own website, to people leaning into different things. Like, how are things for GCW with Triller, and what do you think about the current distribution landscape?
Well, right in this very moment, things are fine with GCW and Triller. They still have a good subscriber base. Our viewership remains strong, and Triller is holding up enough of their end of the bargain where we're sticking around. And at this point in the game, where I think, I know it's been said for a while now, but something's going to happen sooner or later. A change is going to happen, and I think it behooves us to ride this thing out and see what happens and see where we come out on the other side. Because overall, Triller and before that Fight, they've been great. We've had a very mutually beneficial relationship going on 6, 7, 8 years now, almost 7 or 8 years. So, I think it just, I think we have to ride this out and see what happens on the other side. And if and when a change for GCW has to occur, then it will. But right this minute is not that time. As for the streaming landscape, it's really tough right now. It's indie wrestling as a whole is encountering, some tough times, in my opinion. There's live attendance in many markets is struggling. And that's not just a GCW thing. That's across the board. streaming revenue is down across the board. I mean, you see a lot of people, switching to YouTube, which is free, over going to streaming sites that pay on a viewership basis, just because they're taking the exposure over the little amount of money that they were getting by being on the subscription networks. That's kind of where we're at right now. So I think it's a challenging time right now, and everybody's kind of trying to figure out what the path forward is. Is it YouTube? Is it an existing streaming service that's there, but nobody's really thriving on? Is it, do they take a little bit to get the revenue, or do they give up all the revenue for the exposure? It's really tough for people to figure out right now. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what the early returns are on my AEW. I haven't used it, so I don't know what the platform is like. Have you guys used it?
No.
So, no. So I don't know. I don't know what that user experience is like. Obviously, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Triller's software, or Triller's technology is one of their strengths. People are familiar with it. It's easy to use. It works pretty well always. So I think that's one strength they have. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people have stuck with it. But I don't know. I think my AEW obviously has the potential to be great for the indies. Having an affiliation with AEW is obviously a huge plus. But I think, again, they seem, my AEW is offering, a different formula and payment formula than many of the others have used. So I think we're all just trying to see what's working, what's worth it, what's not. And it's great that my AEW is an option right now. So, could that be a place for GCW someday? Maybe, but I'm interested in to see how it works out for other people. And aside from that, I don't know, man. Everybody's just kind of trying to figure it out.
So speaking of Juggalo legacy, I think one of the big pluses since Vince Russo came along has been this YouTube weekly episodic show. And certainly there's only so many hours in the day, but with GCW programming being behind the Triller paywall, do you think there could be something there for like a weekly or semi-regular programming on YouTube that can sort of draw people more to behind the paywall, or it's just too much?
What was the first part of your question? It cut out. You froze on me.
Oh, sure.
I heard the
was
second
just
half.
giving a little bit of context that, I've been thinking about it more since Legacy, the success that they've been having with
lunacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
But yeah, I don't know. In terms of something like that for GCW, I've definitely thought about it. It's interesting to think about, but I don't know. I don't know if that is I don't know. I don't know how that would affect like what we do on a show by show basis. Like we don't do TV episodes. Like that's not how our events play out. So I feel like if we were to switch to something like that, we would either have to change the way we present our shows, our live events, or find a creative way to turn it in to a weekly program. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah. So, of course, at times there's extreme matches with glass and weapons and whatever it may be, but you are very staunch about no fire. So why is fire the line that cannot be crossed?
Well, first of all, fire can and will set off a sprinkler system. So you can start right there. Most venues don't want their sprinkler system going off. Two, fire burns people and causes serious injury at a high ratio. we've had a couple in GCW alone where people were pretty badly burned. And I don't like that. I don't personally enjoy that, witnessing it or having it happen to my people. So, and then fire is just, I mean, flat out, fire is hard to control. It's dangerous. So I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, with Adam Abdallah, a past guest of the show and a collaborator on the Jersey Championship Wrestling, who has now started up Produce, it seemed to have a lot of buzz there on my AEW, and then suddenly there was fighting with Joey Janela going on. So I don't want to be too nosy, but if you could spill the tea a little bit, like what's your observations of this, knowing all the different players, like what's going on?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk too much about this because I feel like I just don't feel like it's appropriate because I think that there's I don't know, I'm trying to find a diplomatic way to say it. I just it's a surprising and disappointing situation for me personally. I never envisioned we would be in this position, and I'm not, I don't personally enjoy it, and I try to be a little more reserved. I certainly have feelings, but Joey's not afraid to speak his mind publicly. I try to be a little more reserved and behind the scenes. So, I do have feelings about it, and I would rather not share them publicly right now. But obviously Joey is a longtime friend, colleague, partner of mine, and I will always support Joey from day one until the final day. So it's a disappointing situation, and I don't know. I just feel like now is not a great time for me to discuss it.
Sure. And on a positive note, a show that John nearly made, you recently celebrated 20 years of The Bad Boy. So a little bit of reflection on what that was like and how things went in Asbury Park.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm really glad that we had a chance to celebrate Joey, because Joey's a guy who oftentimes has not gotten the quote unquote flowers that he deserves. He's done a lot for a lot of people, and just because he's an indie guy, he doesn't always get the national recognition that he deserves. So to be able to devote an entire evening to him and have some of his best friends and rivals together under one roof, and to be able to kind of tell him face to face, together, how much he means to us and how much we appreciate him. It feels like something, that was long overdue, but also, there was no better time as 20 years of Joey Janela to celebrate that. I thought it was a great show. Just that was an example of, planets aligning and having it in Asbury Park, where Joey's from. And it felt like one of those, it was a feel good, not a feel good moment, a feel good evening. And I'm glad we were able to do that and kind of get it on the record, and just being able to celebrate him in front of him, with him, and let him see it all, that we were all there for him. It was rewarding.
So one of the markets that you recently debuted in and are returning to fairly quickly is Cincinnati. That seems like a real bright spot. How is Cincinnati for you?
Well, our first visit to Cincinnati was great. It's I think for the most part, an underserved market. but there's a lot of really passionate wrestling fans there. So, I think there is an opening there in some ways. And it's a cool city, by the way, also. And I really like the venue, the 20th Century Theater. The people there were really cool to work with. They were very welcoming, and I really enjoyed our first time there, and that's why I was so eager to get us back there, because I think it could become a regular stop for GCW.
Yeah, so I know each market is important to you, but just looking at the numbers obsessively over Eventbrite, probably second only to you and your close inner circle and team. LA seems like it's the strongest market by far. Would you say LA is probably like the most consistent market for you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. LA is the longest running, most consistent market for us. It's been, I always call it our home away from home, but as we're into our 7th or 8th year doing shows there, a lot of times it actually does feel like home. We've run there probably. I would love to know the real numbers now at this point. I think we've probably run as many shows in LA as we've run anywhere else at this point. So yeah, it feels like home, even if it's not officially our home. And yeah, again, the most consistent fans probably, and that's not a slight to any other market. It just is what it is. They've been there for us. Most of the shows that we've ever run in LA have been sold out. So, I love going back there. Somewhere that we go that it has I build our schedule around our Los Angeles dates and our Atlantic City dates, and everything else gets filled in around those. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I love going to Los Angeles. I've always loved going there. And yeah, it's a great GCW market.
So it's been a little while, I think, since you've been in Brooklyn. That was one of my favorite venues to see GCW. Does that venue still work for you, or is it just a matter of timing?
Well, timing is always important, but I think it's just, nothing is cheap in New York. So, I think it's a matter of finding, the right event, the right time. Just the right situation to go back there. We'll be back. I don't know when. We'll be back at some point, though.
So in potentially New York, what's like sort of the scuttlebutt that you're hearing about this alternative WrestleMania weekend? If there is, are you starting to make plans 5 months out or thereabouts, or is it too early?
I don't know, man. It's a weird situation because, I don't look at this as an alternative WrestleMania weekend, or at least, I guess it depends what exactly we mean by that. Do we mean by the things happening in New York, like around the AAA show and the NXT show and the viewing party? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, it seems like that's sort of where things are pointing, sort of like towards that epicenter.
I don't see that, because we're talking about a viewing party. That's one of the events, which, are people traveling from out of state to come to a viewing party? No. Then there's the AAA show and the NXT show, which, correct me if I'm wrong, they're happening at the theater at the Garden, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not even at the Garden. So what's the capacity there? A couple thousand?
It depends. Probably like up to 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 5,000. A little bigger than I thought, but also, are there people traveling from around the country, around the world, to come in for a NXT show at the theater at the Garden? Even if there are, how many could there be? You can only fit 5,000 people in there. Is there some huge? Is the market suddenly bigger that warrants a weekend of activities, just because it's WrestleMania weekend, even though WrestleMania is not there. I don't think so. I don't see it. In addition, I think one thing that a lot of people are not considering is that WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia will probably begin at what, noon Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah.
So I'm presuming that it's going to be a 2-day WrestleMania with both shows starting at noon Eastern Time. So it's not like you have a whole day to lead up to WrestleMania at night. It sounds to me like WrestleMania is going to kick off the day, and then what? Then it's AAA and NXT.
Yep.
So where's the window? I don't even see where the window is. Like, people are going to watch WrestleMania no matter what. When they're in USA WrestleMania weekends, when we do the Collective and the other folks do, their equivalents of the Collective, you don't often see shows running against WrestleMania. There are a few here and there, but nobody talks about them. They're just going on. I can't think of the term. There's a tree falling in the forest type thing going on. If there's nobody there to hear it, did it even happen? It's a exercise in futility. There's one of the words. So I don't even know. Like, one, where's the audience? Two, where's the window? I'm just not so sure that it exists. If something changes and a window opens, of course I would love to be there and be a part of it. But until I see that opportunity, I don't know what the move is.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of a set of dominoes that we're not even sure if there's a first domino. If AEW is running something that's sort of like the idea that maybe WWE did set up this AAA show to counteract that, but it's a lot of speculation.
I think, there was 2 theories that I was working off of. The first being that, and I had heard this from folks, was that that WrestleMania would be one day in Saudi Arabia and one day in the United States. So I was working it off of and hoping that would be the plan, and that we would still be able to base something off of whatever the United States version of WrestleMania would be. But now it appears that that's not happening. I don't see any scenario where that takes place now. It seems like it's a 2-day Saudi Arabia WrestleMania, and that's it. So, so it seems like that idea is out the window. And then, I have heard rumblings, that AEW could do something, but I don't think it will be the same weekend. I think it will be a different weekend, whether it's the week before or the week after. That's what I think is more likely to happen. I don't think that they're going to do something the same weekend as WrestleMania. So nothing has been announced on that side. So again, I think planning anything right this moment would probably be premature until we hear from them.
Thanks, Brett. Let me turn over to John.
Now, Brett, where can everybody find and follow Game Changer Wrestling? Tell us what's coming up for GCW Game Changer.
Well, of course, you can follow us on the artist formerly known as Twitter at GC Wrestling _. You can follow us on Instagram at Game Changer Wrestling. You can see us next. We have Jersey Championship Wrestling, September the 6th, Sunday, at the Mecca, Ridgefield Park. And then we head back to the West Coast. Denver, September the 11th. Los Angeles, September the 12th. Some big matches. Otis Kogar versus Vipers for the UV title in LA. And then, of course, there's a big 6-man tag. Hook returns to GCW. Teams with Busta and the Brain versus Atticus Kogar and new GCW tag team champions, KJ Orso and Sam Stackhouse. Those are just 2 of the big matches in LA. Expecting another big crowd. And then, after that, we'll be making our way back to the Midwest. We've got the Cincinnati coming up. We've got Detroit coming up. And after that, we'll be coming back around to Atlantic City War Games weekend, October 10th and 11th. And then, we'll just continue moving along off to the races. In November, we'll be hitting, of course, St. Louis and Indianapolis. But more importantly, we'll be hitting the great states of Montana and Idaho, which will be states number 41 and 42. So that's the immediate. That's the immediate where you can catch us. The train continues on. As they say, and we just keep going and going, and as Nick Gage says, and effing going. So that's what we're gonna do.
Awesome. Good luck to Game Changer. Brett, thank you for joining us for episode 300, believe it or not.
Yeah, and congratulations again, fellas. You have one of the few podcasts that I find actually to be interesting. So thank you for having me aboard. And I hope to do it again sometime soon. And let's try to get it up to 5%, perhaps by the middle of next year.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. We appreciate your support from day one and looking forward to that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Have a good night.
Yeah. Thanks. Good night.
All right, Lavie, let's wrap up this bad boy. Head towards the plugs. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you?
Follow me on X at LavieMarg, LavieMarg. Check out my books on Amazon, Ultimate Fighters and Trump Mania. Follow my long-form articles on LionCubJobSearch.com and join our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business. Like, rate, review, share, all that good stuff. Help us keep going to episode 500 and beyond.
Nice. Thank you, Lavie. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for the business.